Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sea Trade Cruise Talks podcast. I'm joined today by Laura Cimaglia, who is the Vice President of MedCruise, also responsible for cruise community engagement at MedCruise, as well as Port of Taranto's Director of General and International Affairs. So welcome, Laura.
Welcome to you, Holly. It's a very shiny day here in Taranto, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Now, I'm very interested, Laura. You've got a lot of responsibilities in your role, not just at MedCruise, but of course, looking at cruise community engagement as a whole, as well as your responsibilities at Taranto. But what I'd really like to hone in on today is the AIVP working group, because I know you're working on some new targets with them. So first of all, for our listeners who aren't familiar with the AIVP, perhaps you could explain a little bit what they are about and also what inspired the collaboration between MedCruise and AIVP to create the cruise port city compass that you've got.
I have to say I am very, very, very proud about this collaboration. AIVP is the International Association of Port City, and they've been working on our worldwide network for over 30 years now. Their aim is basically to put together port players and city players in order to find a way to work together and collaborate. Our associations, though, had and still have different aims. The idea came to me in 2020, 2021. It was during COVID, and I do remember that because it was the time when we were starting in our community, in our network, to talk about tourism and over-tourism, about the pressure that sometimes communities were feeling about cruises. It was MedCruise who reached out to AIVP during COVID. At the beginning, it wasn't easy. As I said, we were and we still are very different with very different aims. But our talking into each other made us realize how important it is to have a different perspective, a different point of view. And we started to use our differences to work into a common position and support a sustainable cruise growth and port city relations. At that time, then we started the first working group. The name was and still is Cruises and Port Cities. We are currently composed of about 28 members from 12 different counties. And our partnership and commitment, it is proved by the love and passion that all the members are putting into this working group. I also have to say that I'm proud because it is the first and only, for the moment, working group in MedCruise who has an external partner, another association. We usually have internal working groups, which are great, but this time we reached out and I think it worked. So the aim of the partnership was, as I was saying, to gain a different point of view, a different perspective. And we decided that we wanted to put this into words. And that's how it came, the idea of working on a cruise port city compass.
Well, that's very interesting to hear, Laura, how from various differences among the members that you're able to combine your insights and expertise to form this relationship. So thank you for shedding some light on how the partnership developed. What would you consider the main strength of the working group?
It is a working group that gathered together a mix of members, not only ports, but, and this is what really interested us on MedCruise side, because we are ports and port communities in the association. But on the other side, in the AIVP, it's also cities around the world. And it is a very interesting approach, the one they have, because it's not only based on the Mediterranean, like the association that I represent, but it's worldwide, and it's a very important thing. And also, it might sound like a logo or a slogan, but our diversity is really the most powerful strength we have. We bring together people from shore to cities, and we learn from their project, direct experience, and port city development strategies. And we listen to all the goals achieved from the members of the group, which, as I say, we are now 28, but every time we gather together online or during our webinars during the first phase, we were always a group of people between 20 and 25 people. So the collaboration was great and we had a lot of work to do. But this is, I think, what helped us most. Shores and cities together talking about their perspective, their issues, because sometimes there are issues. But one thing I realized, and that was actually the first time I talked to the members and representative of the AIVP, is that communication is the key. They didn't know us. They didn't know about the work that MedCruise was doing. They just probably thought that we were trying to promote our ports in the cruise market, regardless of what was happening on the shore and on the communities. And then when they learned how passionate we were also taking care of the communities, port communities and cities communities, that's when we really clicked.
Well, that's very inspiring. It's very promising to hear about the dedication on both sides of tackling some of the issues that you've mentioned around over tourism and really seeing this relationship go from strength to strength. So the Cruise Port City Compass itself, it focuses on environmental protection, port city interface, governance, economic impact. But which of these areas do you believe presents the greatest opportunity for improvement across Mediterranean cruise destinations?
Well, it was a great effort. And let me also thank my collaborator, Noemi Fasciello, still working with me, but she took care of the Cruise Compass while I was, for professional reasons, out for a period of the association. And it was a beautiful coincidence. When I started working with the association again, I found myself in the same field I left 3 years before, which was really exciting for me. It was a very big effort because it put together 16 members from both associations. And it also spanned not only in ports and cities, but we wanted to hear the voices of academia. Also, we wanted to have some complementary perspective from associations like TIA and ASPO. We interviewed Professor Thomas Pallas from the Piraeus University, and we also had 3 port authorities and municipal governments to talk and give us their experience, such as Trois-Rivières in Canada, Marseille in France, and Dubrovnik in Croatia. And the last part we wanted to talk also about technical and infrastructure providers. So we interviewed WebType and Global Port Solving, which, as you know, it's the global terminal operator for cruise ships. It is a first phase. We want to consider this as the first output, and now we want to go further. But if I have to go back to the compass, I think that 3 main points can be, let's say, underlined. First one, if we talk about port city interface, we need to still work a little bit more on the integration between cruise terminals and urban areas. And that is because I think we need to improve the passenger experience as well as the local community engagement. And now that I'm talking, it comes to my mind that one of the greatest example that we had, a huge project that was led by our former president, Figen Ayan. It was the Istanbul terminal at the Galata port. That was a huge effort. And I think examples like this may help other ports to develop a very good relationship between port and city. Also, if we talk about governance, I think we need to foster the collaboration more between the local and city planner and port authorities and port planners. Together, also the stakeholders into the planning procedure. This is also something that we can do in order to standardize the procedures and features of the infrastructures around the Mediterranean. And then there is a last point that I think it is still important. If we talk about the economic impacts and benefits for local communities, I think that we still need to look into the workforce training and employment opportunities, because it is not only a matter of port taxes, but it is a matter also of cultural change. And I can give you the example of my home city, which comes from an industrial past. But when the cruises started to touch the port of Taranto, something changed and something kicked into the communities. So we now have schools that are training children for professions that are dedicated to the cruise sector. And I think this is something that we were not expecting. It was a surprise, and it is so important that we want to foster this more.
Absolutely. Can you elaborate on how the document serves as a compass for sustainable growth and development of cruise ports and their communities?
Yes, while discussing in the working group, what came out is that, of course, even in this situation, we cannot have one solution that fits all. This is clear. Ports and city ports are different all over throughout the Mediterranean. So what we really wanted to do was, for this first phase of the working group, to create a document that could serve as, we call it compass, but it's really a guideline. So we thought of giving examples, sharing good practices so that people could relate. It's not that we are not going around, talking about the compass and you should do this or you should do that. We are emphasizing what other people, what other ports, what other cities have done, and so that people can be inspired. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think as an output of the first phase, it's really good. But we are still working on the second phase, which will be, I can say, maybe even more exciting, because this is the time when we are thinking about giving people some tools.
Well, that's great. Very good to hear that. How is MedCruise helping member ports implement the sustainable practices highlighted in the publication?
Let me tell you that it's not just my working group that is working onto sustainable practice, because MedCruise is been involved in sustainability for many years so far. One of the first working groups that was created was the one about the environmental impact of cruises, which is led by my very good friend Valeria Mangiarotti. And they have done an incredible and amazing job. One of the last outputs that the working group created is a map that is shown on the MedCruise website, where you can see all the ongoing projects about alternative fuels. If you go there, you can see who in the Mediterranean, clearly amongst the members of the association, has already OPS or is providing OPS or different and alternative fuels, hydrogen, and so on. And I think this is something that people need to see. For example, I used this map the other day when I was doing a meeting, because we really wanted to understand who was providing this kind of services in the Mediterranean. And if a port wants to invest on an alternative fuel, I think it's a good point of view. It's a good starting point, actually, to see who else is providing the same service. And this is on the environmental point of view. On the social impact point of view, as we say in Italy, we are changing our shirt. Our working group was named Cruise and City Relationship. And now it is called Cruise Community Engagement. And the name only, even if you read it, it makes you understand that the focus is on the engagement. The focus is on people. We hear worldwide a lot of problems that many communities, many cities, not only port cities, are struggling with the impact of tourism and really want to address this issue. So these are the main points that the association is taking care of right now.
That's great to hear, Laura, and very promising. So, looking forward to seeing how the relationship develops and continues to evolve and do more really good things. Now, the publication showcases Barcelona, Marseille, and Dubrovnik as representing different stages of cruise sector development. But what lessons can other ports learn from these case studies?
Overall, the case studies emphasize the importance of strategic infrastructure investment, sustainability, community engagement, accessibility, and balancing economic benefits with social and also environmental responsibility for a long-term success in cruise port city development. This is not an easy recipe, let's say. The interviews with the cities of Marseille and Dubrovnik showcased the different stages of development in the cruise sector that the two port cities have. And in the case of Marseille, for instance, we appreciate the contrasting perspective in which the right balance between the sector and the local aspiration expressed by the political leaders is not yet being achieved. Still, right now, these days, Marcel is discussing about the future in the cruise market. And in the spirit of the publication, to build new dialogues, all the voices must be heard as a first step towards a balanced relationship. So we don't want to cut it out just because it wasn't, totally positive. In the case of the Broadleaf, instead, we can see a more mature situation in which the problem of over-tourism was addressed through dialogue. Smart city solution was something that we picked for the second phase, and agreements with stakeholders like the cruise lines. And these contributions are the key to understand the highs and lows of the world of cruising through the hours also of local governments. Let me tell you what difficulty most of the time we find in our port cities. Local governments are not experts on the subject, on cruising, on port operations, what the cruise ship wants when it calls a port. So the relationship between local government and port authorities, it's really essential. Everyone has to do their job, but if we don't cooperate, nothing can be achieved. This is something that I think I have learned, and we need to tell people that they cannot, they cannot stay in their offices in the port, but they have to go out and seek the local authorities and teach them, if needed, what they need to know in order to make better policies for the local communities.
Well, that's great advice, Laura. So, very good to hear your input, your insights into this. What about the technical side? I mean, you've spoken a little bit about the shore power and some other areas connected with this, but I'm interested to know, what role do you see for technical and infrastructural providers in advancing the sustainable cruise port city relationship outlined in your publication?
Well, Holly, while writing the compass, we collected a lot of inputs about port transitions towards a greener, smarter, and more sustainable cruise tourism. And I think that the providers play a crucial role in advancing the sustainable cruise port city relationship, which was firstly outlined in the publication. But their role is pivotal for the developing and implementing the advanced technologies, such as the one we're mentioning, OPS system, for instance, that will allow cruise ship to connect to renewable electricity grids, significantly reducing emissions. And this is something that, even if it was the first maybe struggle, it is still one of the main points that cities worry about. So I think that the technical providers can serve for designing and constructing modern and energy efficient cruise terminal. And I think that the infrastructure should think about how to accommodate larger ships with an increased volume of passengers, of course, but minimizing their environmental impact. And again, let me think about the Delta Port case, for instance. They built a whole neighborhood out of an abandoned quay inside the old town of Istanbul, and it's now thriving with people that there is also a shopping mall, a restaurant. And when the ship is there, there's a huge, security wall coming up, allowing people to work in a secure way and respecting, of course, also all the laws about ISGS code and everything. So that's a very good example.
That's great. Thank you for that example, Laura. Now, we at Sea Trade Cruise, we are very eager to know more about the second phase of the working group and your new task. So, what is the Task Cruise community engagement actually about?
So, Holly, the name says everything in this case. It's not just about showing something different, but about giving something different to the members. We are now focusing on cruise community engagement. I have to say that the idea is now to still continue to gather information from the members, but also to give them back. How to do so? Well, the idea came because my ears were burning when I heard an MSc, for instance, had a new position on cruise community engagement. I thought, so this is the way. I mean, it's not just us focusing on local communities. Finally, so the cruisers, the cruise ships and cruise companies see that this is where they have to go. This is what they have to foster. And so we decided to involve the manager that MSc has chosen, who is John Olaf Steady. And he became our first bracket angel. We decided to have these angels, which are people from outside the association, to help our members, to give them insights how they can work together. For instance, in this case, for the first webinar that we had together with the cruise lines. And then let me tell you, it was really interesting to learn how to go wrong so many times, being a port promoter. Sometimes you just don't know who to talk to, how to reach the cruise line. And Jan Olaf was very good in that. And also, it was funny because during the first webinar, someone came out saying, "Hey, can I call you later? Because I have a problem." And he said, "Of course, this is my number. Call me anytime." So this was a great success for us. And we want to go on like this. We are planning to have another session, another online session. I can't spoil you who our angel will be. You have to. But it will be very interesting because it's going to be focused on how to manage the flows coming down from the cruise ships.
Wow, that's very exciting. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for this information.
Yes.
So regarding the working group, you've spoken about this, how it's changed everything that you're doing at the moment to really develop this concept. So the format of this second phase, it is quite different than to previously. And have you introduced any other innovation for development of some of the activities?
Yes, it is totally different. As I said, we will still have our online meetings, but we are thinking also of showcasing the working group live. So in October, we are going to have our second online session. And the host, as I was telling you, is an expert on flow management. I can just start the company is called Systematica. And we're going to focus on flow management. And then we're going to have a third session in a port city. And we're going to go live. And at that time, I think it's going to be a mix of the two phases. So members that will join can probably showcase. It's still an ongoing thing. So they will probably showcase and tell their experiences. But also our angels and our experts will mix with the members. And I don't want to use the word teach because it's not a teaching session. It's a learning session, though. So from different perspective, different experience, different professions also, people will learn. And what we expect to come out this experience is that probably, well, this is what we aim, of course. We will see what happens. But everyone can bring home something more on how to manage the cruise ships in their ports. No matter if the port is a small port regarding the cruise business, or if it is a large port with issues, we really hope that our encounter of these professionals will help all of them.
Well, that's great. And it's lovely to hear you discuss this, Laura, talk about these plans and really developing the industry, pushing the sustainability. And, it's very inspiring and very encouraging. So thank you for all of your advice, your insights that you've shared with us. And I'm really looking forward to hearing where this goes, this work with the AIVP and your Port City Compass, how it's growing and developing, and we're going to be keeping a close eye on this and sharing news as we learn more and more about it.
Thank you, Holly. It was a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to see you in Hamburg and discuss more about this. Thank you to Citra too.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.